You're taught to fight for your place, to prove yourself, to chase recognition, to stay and convince the world why you deserve to be seen. But what if that's the trap? What if your true value isn't in what you chase, but in what you walk away from? People spend their lives trying to win approval in the wrong arenas, battling for attention from people who don't matter, begging to stay in rooms where they should have never stepped into in the first place. They call it ambition, but often it's just disguised desperation. Niccolo Machiavelli said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But what he really meant was this: power lies in self-respect, and nothing demands more respect than a person who can say, "I don't need to be here. I won't lower myself to compete in a game that insults my worth." Let me tell you a story. There was once a race, one of those dog races where the fastest greyhounds chase a mechanical rabbit around a track. But this time, something unexpected happened. A cheetah was placed among the dogs. The crowd went silent, anticipating a spectacle. The gates opened. The dogs bolted. The rabbit flew ahead, but the cheetah didn't move. It sat, calm, still, unimpressed. People were confused, but someone wise said, "The cheetah doesn't run to prove it's faster than dogs. It knows its power. It knows this isn't its race." That's you. That should be you, the moment you realize your worth. You stop running in races that don't deserve your speed. You stop arguing with people beneath your vision. You stop proving yourself to people who will never understand your depth. You stop staying in jobs, relationships, or circles where your brilliance is dimmed just to make others feel comfortable. You don't fight for a seat at the wrong table. You build your own, or better yet, walk away from the whole room. Because walking away isn't weakness, it's a declaration. A declaration that says, you don't get access to me just because you want it, you earn it. You want respect? Then stop clinging, stop chasing people, positions, and approval that requires you to shrink. Start saying no, not out of spite, but out of standard. Machiavelli wasn't ruthless for the sake of cruelty. He was strategic. He knew that power was perception, and nothing shifts perception more than knowing when to withhold your presence. You don't have to yell, you don't have to explain. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is leave. Let your silence scream. Let your absence echo. The world respects mystery more than transparency. It admires control more than chaos, and it fears those who don't need to be liked. So next time you feel the urge to stay, to fix, to chase, remember the cheetah. You are not here to race with dogs. You are not here to prove what you already are. There is no strength in proving yourself to people who aren't qualified to judge you. There is no victory in winning a game that was beneath you to begin with. Machiavelli teaches us that walking away is not loss, it's leverage. It's choosing dignity over desperation, power over panic, silence over shouting. So here's your challenge. The next time life puts you in a position to beg for validation, don't. Instead, stand still, be calm, and ask yourself, what does walking away teach them that staying never could? They say good fences make good neighbors, but in power, it's more than neighborly wisdom, it's survival. You want to be respected? Start by defining what's yours, and more importantly, what isn't. Weak people don't lack kindness. They lack boundaries. They give too much, apologize too often, say yes when they want to scream no, and then they wonder why they're exhausted, overlooked, invisible. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. To him, power wasn't about domination, it was about control. Control of perception, control of space, control of access. The moment people sense you have no line, they step in, test you, push you, and before you realize it, you're not protecting your territory. You've become territory. Here's the truth most won't tell you. People treat you based on what you tolerate. Every time you let something slide, disrespect, manipulation, emotional blackmail, you're drawing a new map, one where you shrink and others expand. You ever seen a lion beg for peace? Number. Because the lion's power isn't just in its roar, it's in its posture, its silence, its ability to say, "You come closer than this, you bleed." That's not cruelty, that's clarity. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you set a boundary and stuck to it? Not just said it, enforced it, without apologizing, without guilt, without trying to be liked for it. Because that's where most people fold. They think boundaries will make them less loved. But here's the Machiavellian twist. True respect only comes when people know there's a line they can't cross. Let's be honest. A kind person with no boundaries is useful, not powerful. And in a world driven by perception, usefulness without power is a recipe for exploitation. You want to be liked? Go ahead. But don't expect to be respected, because respect doesn't come from being agreeable, it comes from being unshakable. Machiavelli believed that in the game of influence, you must never allow your kindness to become your weakness, and the only way to make that happen is to build walls, not to keep people out, but to let the right ones in, on your terms. Start small, say no without an excuse, walk away from conversations that drain you. Stop over-explaining your decisions. Let people feel the weight of your no. It's not your job to soften every blow. Power isn't about raising your voice. It's about lowering your availability. And here's the beautiful irony. When you start setting clear lines, the world doesn't turn against you. It reorganizes itself around you, because boundaries don't push people away. They attract the right ones, those who respect you, see your time as valuable, and understand that your silence has more power than their noise. So next time you hesitate to draw the line, remember this: you're not being difficult, you're being deliberate. You're not pushing people away. You're inviting only those strong enough to stay with respect. You're not being harsh. You're finally protecting the masterpiece that is you. And Machiavelli would agree, the line you draw today defines the power you hold tomorrow. There's a kind of power most people never tap into, not because it's hard to access, but because they're afraid of using it. It's not in shouting, not in titles, not in how much money you've got. It's in a single word: no. A quiet, firm, unapologetic no. That's the point where your real strength begins. You see, in a world that constantly tells you to say yes, yes to extra work, yes to being available, yes to expectations that don't align with who you are, your no becomes sacred, rare, and powerful. Why? Because most people are terrified of being disliked. They'd rather stretch themselves thin than risk disappointing someone. They'd rather be overwhelmed than misunderstood. So they say yes, out of guilt, out of fear. And with every false yes, they weaken, slowly, quietly, silently. But when you learn to say no, you disrupt that cycle. You shift the balance. Suddenly, you're not the one chasing approval. You're the one defining your worth. Think about it. When was the last time someone said no to you, and you instantly respected them more? not because they were rude, but because they were clear, grounded, unshakable. Machiavelli would say, "He who cannot say no does not rule, he obeys." Let that sink in. Every no you say to others is a louder yes to yourself, to your time, your peace, your self-respect. But here's the key. It's not just what you say no to, it's how you say it. A real no isn't defensive. It doesn't explain itself away. It doesn't tremble. It stands, rooted like an oak tree in a storm. And the moment you speak it with calm certainty, the world listens. Even if they don't agree, they adjust, because your energy tells them, this person has boundaries, this person has standards, this person is not to be played with. It's not about being harsh, it's about being deliberate. You don't say no because you're selfish, you say it because you understand the value of your yes. And every powerful figure in history, every leader, every icon, every person who stood tall while the world pushed, they all had one thing in common. They weren't afraid to walk away. They weren't afraid to disappoint. They weren't afraid to draw a line and say, this is where I end, and where you must respect me. But you won't get there overnight. It takes practice. At first, saying no will feel uncomfortable. You'll second guess. You'll want to backpedal. But every time you hold your ground, you grow. Stronger, quieter, unbothered. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop seeking permission to take up space. And that's when people notice. They don't say it out loud, but they feel it. The shift, the respect, the weight of your no. Because in a world of fake smiles and easy compliance, a single honest no can feel like thunder. So the next time you feel that discomfort, that pressure to say yes when your soul screams no, remember this. You don't owe everyone access. You don't owe everyone your energy. You don't owe anyone your peace. Machiavelli said, appear merciful, but rule with clarity. That's what no is, a ruler's clarity. Not loud, not cruel, but absolute. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you started saying no to things that drain you, to people who don't value you, to roles that no longer fit you? Because the more you say no to what isn't you, the more you become who you truly are. They offer you a seat, but it's in the back. They offer you love, but it's conditional. They offer you respect, but only if you stay small. And too often we say, okay, not because we believe that's what we deserve, but because we're afraid there's nothing better, that if we don't take it, we might end up with nothing at all. But here's the truth. Every time you accept less than your worth, you teach the world how to treat you. You set the price tag, you put the number on your value, and the world pays exactly what you ask for. See, self-worth isn't loud. It doesn't need to scream or demand to be noticed. True self-worth is silent. It walks away from cheap offers. It doesn't explain. It doesn't argue. It simply says, that's not enough for me. Machiavelli once said, a man who holds himself cheap will be treated as such. Let that echo in your mind. If you sell your peace for temporary comfort, you're underpricing yourself. If you bend your standards for shallow validation, you're discounting your value. If you tolerate disrespect just to avoid conflict, you're giving the most precious parts of yourself away at a clearance price. But it's not your fault. This world is loud with comparison. Every scroll, every ad, every post screams at you that you're not enough until you buy something, change something, or prove something. And in that noise, you forget what already made you valuable: your mind, your boundaries, your authenticity. Think about this. Luxury isn't loud. The most expensive brands don't scream. They whisper, because they know their worth. That's how you walk too. Your boundaries are your price tags. What you tolerate tells people what you think you're worth. And when you raise your price, the wrong people disappear. But the right ones, they'll meet you where you stand. This isn't arrogance, this is clarity. This is you refusing to be bought by approval, attention, or fake affection. You're not here to prove, you're here to choose. And the most powerful choice you can make: to wait, to pass, to walk away from anything that doesn't honor your value. Imagine this: someone offers you a chair, but it's broken. Do you sit? Someone offers you a crown, but it comes with chains. Do you wear it? Someone offers you love, but it asks you to shrink. Do you accept it? Self-respect is not about what you receive. It's about what you refuse. And every no you say to a low offer, a shallow relationship, a cheap label, is a loud yes to yourself. It doesn't mean the world will clap. Often they'll push back. They'll call you difficult, selfish, too much. But that's only because you've stepped out of the discount aisle and onto your throne. And here's what's wild: when you stop trying to be liked, you start being respected. When you stop trying to please, you start to rise. Because people follow those who move with quiet certainty. Machiavelli didn't believe in pleasing the crowd. He believed in understanding power, and power begins where desperation ends. So ask yourself, what have you been accepting that insults your soul? What fake peace have you bought just to avoid loneliness? What price have you settled for? That's far below what you're truly worth. Now ask the real question. What would your life look like if you only accepted full price offers? Respect that doesn't require shrinking. Love that doesn't demand pretending. Opportunities that don't ask you to betray yourself. Because once you raise your standard, once you make peace with walking away, the world adjusts. Not instantly, but eventually. They either rise to meet you or fade out of view. Either way, you stay whole. So next time someone comes with half love, half respect, half effort, look them in the eye and say, "This version of me is not for sale." Have you ever walked away from something others would kill for? A job, a person, a spotlight? Not because you couldn't get it, but because you didn't want it anymore. That's not weakness. That's power. Because here's the truth most people never learn. There's a world of difference between not having something and choosing not to have it. And the people who scare the world the most are the ones who can live without the things others chase blindly. See, fear of losing is the default. We've been wired to cling, to chase, to grab, because we're told that if you don't hold on tight, it'll slip through your fingers, and then who are you? But Machiavelli knew better. He saw the game for what it was, and he whispered a dangerous truth. He who can walk away without blinking controls the game. When you're not afraid to lose, you become unpredictable, unshakable, unbuyable. Think about it. The person begging for love is a prisoner, but the one who can love without needing is free. The one terrified of losing their job plays it safe, stays quiet, follows every rule. But the one who knows their worth, they speak with fire because their value doesn't come from the title. The entrepreneur who's desperate to make a sale folds to pressure, cuts prices, begs. but the one who can say no to a bad deal. They set the market. People respect what they can't control. And nothing is more powerful than someone who chooses their silence, their absence, their detachment when they could have chosen otherwise. This is the root of inner strength. It's not that you don't want things. It's that you don't need to prove anything to have them. You're not starving. You're not desperate. You're full. So you can afford to say no. It's not about apathy. It's about selectiveness, intent, self-mastery, and it terrifies people because most are trapped in the illusion that having more means being more. But not you. You've learned that sometimes the greatest flex isn't what you get. It's what you reject. A cheap compliment, an easy opportunity, a toxic relationship, a hollow win. Each time you say no to something unworthy, you say yes to your deeper self, your peace, your purpose. Machiavelli didn't admire the ones who always played nice. He admired the ones who could sit at a king's table, smile, and walk away if the food insulted their taste. Because that's not arrogance, that's authority. The world is obsessed with more. More likes, more praise, more stuff. But the person who needs less, the one who can walk away without needing closure, applause, or revenge, they win, silently. Every time. So ask yourself, are you afraid of losing what's not even aligned with who you are? Are you holding on to things because they define you? Or are you ready to define yourself by what you're willing to let go of? Because the real question is this: do you chase out of fear or choose out of strength? Some moments in life don't come with noise. No applause, no spotlight, just a quiet decision to walk away from something you wanted, from someone who mattered, from a dream you once chased. And not because you were weak, but because you finally understood your worth. See, walking away isn't failure. It's a form of power that can't be bought, imitated, or broken. It's the power of knowing that staying would cost you more than leaving. Let that sink in. The job you quit, the friend you let go, the habit you burned to the ground, the fight you stopped fighting. You weren't giving up. You were stepping into alignment. We live in a world obsessed with holding on. Don't quit. Try harder. Prove them wrong. But sometimes real strength is knowing when to stop proving anything at all, because your life isn't a courtroom and you're not on trial. Machiavelli saw this before anyone else did. He understood that not all exits are escapes. Some are entrances to new realms of clarity, of freedom, of self-possession. He wrote of leaders who gained more from what they refused than from all they achieved, because rejection isn't always loss. Sometimes it's reinvention. Think about it. People chase relationships because they're afraid of being alone. They chase jobs because they fear being irrelevant. They chase fame, validation, applause. But the one who doesn't chase, that person becomes the magnet, because there's a rare confidence in someone who walks away with nothing except peace. Now ask yourself this: when was the last time you walked away, not to prove a point, not to play a game, but because your soul demanded it? When was the last time you said, "I'm done," even though every voice told you to stay? And when you did, didn't something shift? Maybe not immediately, but days later, weeks maybe. Something inside settled, and the world began to move again, because life rewards courage, not the noisy kind, but the silent, private, gut-wrenching kind, the kind where you say no more and mean it. You know, there's a difference between being let go and letting go. The first is loss. The second is liberation. We spend years dragging dead weight through life. People, jobs, identities that don't fit anymore. Why? Because we think we're being loyal. Because we think walking away means betrayal. Because we fear the empty space that follows. But hear this. Empty space is not your enemy. It's where transformation begins. It's where the noise stops and the truth finally speaks. So maybe it's not about being ruthless. Maybe it's about being real. Because walking away isn't an act of cruelty. It's an act of courage. It's choosing yourself. It's breaking free from expectations, roles, illusions. Machiavelli never said life was fair, but he did say this: the man who stands firm in his own power needs no throne. You don't need permission. You don't need to justify your peace. You just need to decide. So, here we are. The question that lingers after everything: when was the last time you walked away to become stronger? Not out of anger, not out of fear, but because the weight you were carrying wasn't worth the cost of your freedom. Think carefully, because your next answer might just define who you really are.